Shortly before I came in to make this video, Azimio held a press briefing. Yeah, and this was after a summit meeting. The summit in Azimio is the highest decision-making body within the coalition. And so all the bigwigs were there. Of course, apart from Martha Karua, whom we are told gave her apologies. Yeah, she traveled to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, according to Kalonzo Musyoka, last night. The reaction of Azimio supporters at the announcement of this press briefing was one of excitement. And by the way, Azimio supporters are the vast majority in the country called Kenya. Why were they excited? Because they were hoping against all hope that finally Raila can clear the air over what is really going on in Kenya. Okay? Because although many people want to believe Kumekucha, evidence is mounting to the contrary of what Kumekucha Chris is saying. For instance, just yesterday, a cabinet secretary in the Ruto government, somebody who's supposed to be close to Ruto, Aisha Jumwa, from Kilifi County, paid a courtesy call to Raila's office. And it may be difficult to argue with the political analysts who are saying this is all evidence of a deal, even if you don't call it a handshake. This is all evidence of a deal between Raila and Ruto. Now, this Azimio press briefing was supposed to put an end to this confusion. I don't know how else to call it. However, people were disappointed. It was a strange press briefing. Very strange. Azimio even praised some of the decisions of the Ruto government. However, most of that statement was very hard-hitting towards the government. Azimio even threatened the government. In the statement, Azimio, together, united, told Ruto's government that they are aware that there are some people within and outside parliament who want to interfere or even kill the NADCO report, which is due to be discussed and finalized shortly. It is already in the program of parliament. And Azimio told Ruto's brigade that that NADCO report is supposed to be passed as it is. And any attempt to interfere with it, let alone kill it, will be met with very, very dire consequences from Azimio. Because Azimio insisting that document was a negotiated document between both sides. And those talks brought peace to Kenya, which the government should not take for granted. That was a serious warning to the government. No doubt about that. But then all this drama in that press briefing, where does it leave Kenyans? More confused than before. What is going on here? Well, even I have to admit, it is complicated. Okay? But what I've said repeatedly on this channel is the true situation. There has been no handshake. There is no cooperation between Raila's boys and Ruto's side. There is absolutely nothing like that. And this is complicated because to fully understand it, you will need to acknowledge things which most Kenyans believe do not exist. You know, in the year 2017, I had a serious backlash on this channel when I started talking about the strength, the power of foreign influence in our elections. There was no insult, I was not insulted. Nilitukana zote. And to make matters worse, by both sides of the political divide at that time. Okay? By both NASA and Jubilee. But no hard feelings. And I totally understand. Most of us cannot wrap our minds around. Around these invisible forces. So powerful. Directing and affecting our politics. Most of us can't. We don't even have a place to start. And I totally understand. Well, let's get into this analysis. Yeah? And let's go point by point. Okay? Then maybe at the end of my show today, there will be less confusion. Okay? Point number 1. There is no handshake, but I believe there are rules written down. You shall not do 1, 2, 3. Okay? And then the other side is also told, you shall not do 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now, you can operate within those parameters. That is exactly what is going on here. Point number 2. Okay? Both sides of the political divide have a plan of their own. A plan of their own to come out of this on top. Yeah, to come out of this sets of rules operating under very tight guidelines situation. They have a secret plan, both sides, to come out ahead. Okay? Now let me clarify. In this particular case, coming out ahead does not necessarily mean politically. Okay? Let's make that clear. And let me elaborate that further. Okay? Now, in the current situation we have, any politician operating under the Kenya Kwanza coalition, and especially UDA, their political careers are finished. Okay? Let's get that clear. They cannot win an election, yeah, which relies on people voting for them in the country called Kenya. Maybe they can win an election in Uganda or Tanzania, but not in Kenya. I think that should be obvious. They will also not be able to rig themselves in. You see, this is one principle of rigging many people have not yet been able to understand. You cannot rig an election where you have zero support. It is impossible. You need some support. Enough support to make your rigging believable. Now, the 2022 presidential election rigging, yeah, was not successful because it was not believable. And that is why we are having all these problems. Okay? And for anybody who understands politics and human nature, you would know that this will not last until 2027. There is no way. Okay? So there are those basic principles. So you're in Kenya Kwanza, your political career is finished. You cannot even rig yourself in 2027 or whenever we're going to have elections. Where does that leave you? Now, we must understand that although politicians many times say idiotic things, and sometimes they may even act idiotic, they are not idiots. Okay? They are not. They quickly understand, especially political things. So what are the options? Their options are to stay in the cold for 5 years and then wait and vie for the elections after the next ones. Yeah, if they're going to be in 2027, the next elections after that. That is the only way out. So, how are they going to come out on top in this current scenario? Very simple. Money. If I can't get the political power, I will ensure, if I'm in Kenya Kwanza, that I make as much money as possible within this short time I have. And I believe we are seeing that happening very clearly in our country. Scandal after scandal. It's almost like party after party. That's the situation. I think now we understand very clearly why it is so. Now, what about the Azimio side? Those in Azimio, they know their political destiny. They are wildly popular. Anybody who has been visible enough in Azimio, in the next election, it will be a walkover. They will not even need to campaign. Okay? So how do they come out on top in this particular situation? They don't have access to the cookie jar. So how do they gain? How do they come out ahead? Well, Raila Odinga's plan is super fascinating. And anybody who has followed him for a long time will quickly understand what at least part of the plan is. Do you know how we have reached where we have reached in Kenya? All the reforms that have come through? What has happened is that whenever Raila Odinga is in a position to negotiate with the government, he gets some legislation that will move the country forward. So that from every stage of his political career, I'm telling you, this guy Raila, you need to respect him. So that at every stage of his political career, Kenya has gained something, even if he was rigged out in that election. Now, there was an exception. In 2017, leading up to the elections in 2022, Raila got nothing. He was not able to move the country forward. And it was not his fault. It's not that he didn't try. What happened is that reggae was stopped. The BBI was stopped by the courts. Okay? Now, a lot of Kenyans who talked against the BBI today may have a different opinion. Okay? Because the emotions clouded their judgment. Because the BBI was not to create positions for some people, as Ruto told us. No. The BBI was going to benefit all of us. Indeed, we would never have been in the current crisis had the BBI passed. Even if Raila was still rigged out, things in Kenya would have been very different. Okay? And so I'm sure you have guessed, this time round, it is NADCO, the National Dialogue Document negotiated between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. And if you take the time to look at what is inside NADCO, you will understand better. For instance, one of the demands, which in this case, or at this juncture, is still called a recommendation, but we have heard what Azimio has told Kenya Kwanza. The document must be passed as it is, without any ukarabati, or without any changes. One of the recommendations is for a thorough audit of the 2022 elections, including the presidential elections. Now, of course, an audit will mean opening all the servers. Now, it is very strange that we're even discussing this, because this thing is in our constitution. But then we know the current administration, for them the constitution is only convenient to protect them. When it does not protect them, it is inconvenient and therefore it is ignored. We know that. That's not breaking news. But actually, admittedly, a large chunk of Raila's real secret plan is still secret. Very few people know what he's really up to. That is the truth. Because, for instance, we know that he has been very busy strengthening the ODM party at the grassroots. Yeah, very early. Too early, because the general elections are too far away in the horizon. In fact, when you do it the way Raila has done it, ordinarily, what would happen? Whatever gains you get will usually be quickly eroded, rolled back as the elections near. That is politics. That is what usually happens. And I'm sure Raila knows that. So why has he still insisted on greatly strengthening, spending a lot of his time and resources, strengthening ODM party, and also encouraging the other Azimio affiliate parties to do the same? Why? Although, to be honest, the affiliate parties have not taken it as seriously as Raila has. Maybe they too do not know or do not understand Raila's secret plan. Now, at that Azimio briefing, there was something else that really annoyed Kenyans. The talk of this AU chairmanship that Raila is going for. That always annoys Azimio supporters, because it implies, despite what we're being told that Raila is still around, it implies that Raila is getting a job out of Kenyan politics, and therefore will leave us to the mercy of the wolves and the foxes and the hyenas and the deadly animals in Kenya Kwanza. And again, I have to say, you cannot understand that unless you understand the rules, the environment under which Raila is operating at the moment. I produced a special report, highly sensitive, that describes this in great detail, and I limited it to only 50 people. I believe I now have 45 or thereabouts, but I'm inclined to increase the numbers, because without this sensitive information, it becomes very difficult to understand what is going on in our politics. Because when you open any newspaper, they're just screaming, deal, Raila Ruto deal, handshake, etc., etc., which is annoying Azimio supporters. But please trust me, there is nothing like that. But you can't understand it without knowing what is really going on in the background. What has really been going on in the filthy backrooms of Kenyan politics. And therefore today I'm giving you yet another chance to get hold of this special report. It is all on video, so you don't have to do any reading. And I've retained the special offer I had last time of only $13 or Kenya shillings 19.99 only. And you can have this information with you so that upunguze confusion, and also upunguze anxiety, because I know Kenyans are anxious. Now I know you can see details on your screens right now of what you need to do. Please take action quickly. This is not going to last forever. I have not opened the door forever. I just want a few more people so that more of us fully understand what is going on. And so far I have to say, and those who've already taken in this special report will vouch for me, that everything said in there, no matter how controversial, no matter how shocking, has so far been proven correct. And I believe it will be proven correct to the very end. Because I am sure, and I was sure of the information, all the information in that special report. So please go for it. And so we're in a situation where most politicians in Kenya Kwanza are already very much aware of their fate. They know, maybe except Ruto, who seems to be still hoping for some miracle of some sort from somewhere. But a vast majority of the politicians within Kenya Kwanza know their fate. We have also said that those in Azimio are also very focused, and they know what they're going to achieve for the people of Kenya, even as they await their political glory, which is coming. For sure, if the Almighty God keeps them alive until that election comes, whenever it will come. And so where does that leave ordinary Kenyans? Where does that leave the rest of us? Well, let's be honest. We are between a rock and a hard place. And this is why I believe that what is going to happen next in Kenyan politics is not going to be instigated by the political class. It is going to all happen with the non-political class. That is why I said that. Because life continues to be very difficult in Kenya. And meanwhile, the taxes are still piling up. They have not stopped. They are still coming. And we even have a situation now, for the first time in our history, where people who are jobless, people who do not have a regular source of income, will still have to pay taxes. That is the situation we're in. Actually, we're in a worse situation than being between a rock and a hard place. I believe we're already in the fire, and Kenyans are feeling the heat. And therefore, in that kind of environment, I don't see any other way out. I don't see any other thing happening except something happening from the non-political class. You know, this has happened before in Kenya's history. The situation where we're in right now, it happened a long time ago, in the 1900s, with our illiterate forefathers, ancestors. And this was with the introduction of the hat tax in 1901. Where every hut where people are living had to pay 1 rupee in taxes. Upende usipende. And very instructive. Before the introduction of this tax, most Kenyans did not have a strong opinion on the Mzungu, the colonial government. They didn't. And even those who had opinions were quiet. But this is the thing which started the revolt that led to the independence of Kenya. Now you might think 1 rupee was nothing, but let me give you an idea of the value of 1 rupee in 1901. Now the very popular currency at that time were cowrie shells. You know these shells people collect on the beach? That was the currency. And 1 rupee was equivalent to 800 cowrie shells. And 1 cow was equal to 2,500 cowrie shells. Therefore, quick arithmetic, most Kenyans needed at least a cow to pay for 3 huts, to pay taxes for 3 huts that they had built on their own land at their own expense. Many other Kenyans needed much more than 1 cow because they had 6 huts. Maybe they were polygamous. They had 2 or 3 wives. They had for the children. They had for the grandparents, etc., etc. Bottom line, this was a very punitive tax. It weighed down on the people. It forced a lot of our ancestors to start going to the Mzungu to look for work, which I believe was one of the objectives in the first place, to get workers for their farms. And those people who did not pay the tax were put on forced labor. You're taken to a Mzungu farm, you work for a very long time without any pay, of course, because you're paying your tax with your labor. But my whole point here is that history tells us the introduction of the hat tax was the beginning of the end of the colonial regime, of colonial rulership in the country called Kenya. Now granted, it took a long time, because from 1901 to 1963, those are many years. However, the situation was very different then. These days, life is much more fast-paced. And not only that, these days, Kenyans are not illiterate, and Kenyans are very exposed. Therefore, instead of 63 years or so, it could easily be much less than 63 weeks, not years. That is the way I see it. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.